Today we're going to make matcha together. I'm going to show you my favorite way to make it and share all my best tips so that you can enjoy the best matcha at home. First, we're going to grab our matcha bowl. If you don't have a matcha bowl, you can use any bowl you have at home. Just make sure the interior is super smooth on the surface and make sure it's wide enough so that you actually have room to move in. I see a lot of people doing it in cups or small bowls that just don't have room to let your whisk do its thing. Heat up some water until it's hot but not boiling. And now we're going to sift our matcha powder. It's about 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of matcha. And I think sifting is really important. Matcha is such a finely milled powder that what happens is naturally over time it starts to cling together and clump together. So this just helps to break it up initially. Now this, in my opinion, is a very important tool that you want to use. It is a bamboo whisk. They are made specifically for making matcha, so this is the most traditional way, and in my opinion gives you the best results. A lot of people on TikTok say that you need to soak your whisk in advance. It's not necessary, but you can if you want to. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just pour the hot water over the whisk a little bit, but in my opinion, you don't need to soak the whisk. If you're using it properly and taking care of it, it'll be just fine without. So we're gonna pour our hot but not boiling water over the matcha. I have it at about 160 degrees, at about 1/4 cup for 1 serving of matcha. You want enough water in the bowl to actually be able to whisk. You want to make sure you're going in zigzag motion, so I like to think M shape or W shape, going back and forth. You don't want to scrape the bottom of the bowl too hard because that will damage your whisk, but you do want to whisk pretty vigorously and take your time with it. You whisk for about 30 seconds to 45 seconds sometimes, and the goal is to achieve a nice layer of froth on the top, which means that the matcha is fully suspended into the water. So it should look something like this. I'm gonna turn it into an iced latte, but you could do hot or iced. And since I'm vegan, I'm gonna use some almond milk. You can really use whatever milk that you like. You don't need to froth it, but I feel like if you have the extra time, it's really nice to do that. I like to incorporate any syrup, sweeteners, or flavors into the milk instead of the matcha because I like to preserve my whisk and keep it in better shape. I'm gonna be using vanilla bean paste, such a nice flavor, but vanilla syrup does the trick too. I don't usually sweeten, but if you are going to, I would recommend something liquid that mixes well into the matcha, so something like agave or simple syrup even. I'm gonna froth this just so that the vanilla bean paste and the milk can get friendly. We're gonna make an iced latte. You could also just make an Americano, pour it over ice, and add some extra filtered water on top. Or my other favorite way to enjoy matcha is the pink cocoa matcha, which I feel like is the recipe of mine that people remake the most. Now we're gonna add the plant milk. I always add a lot of ice, so I feel like it looks like more milk than it is. I feel like with plant milk, you have to be careful sometimes because the flavor can overpower the matcha. Some plant milks are really strong in flavor. And the best part, let's add the matcha. And there we go. If you have any other matcha questions or you're new to matcha, I have a free guide all about matcha linked in my profile, and it answers probably any question you could think of. In the next video, I'll show you how to clean your whisk and keep it in good shape.